Hi everyone, let's talk about May and June and stuff. Some videos you might have missed in May, what's coming up in June. There's timestamps all through the description if you want to skip to a particular bit. All of the videos that I make, pretty much, most of them, are made possible thanks to my wonderful patrons. It's patreon.com/slickerdrips. It'll maybe say it across the screen. It's in the description though if you'd like to click it and help all of this keep coming and get to vote on the videos and stuff. There's a vote happening on Patreon now. It will have happened when this video went up. All sorts of great stuff. Most importantly, you give me the opportunity to keep doing all of this, and thank you very much to everyone that does. So let's get started then. If these buttons work right, I am going to do the recap first. This is all the stuff that came up in May, so if you missed any of it, I'll put links to all the videos in the description as well, so you can go straight there if you'd like to have a watch of it. So loads and loads of playthroughs. Again, got my list here, but I'll get reminded with the picture, don't I? So yes, down to requests as well, yes. Patron request for Merkator, one of Uwe Rosenberg's perhaps forgotten games, or not forgotten, but underrated, maybe overlooked a little bit. We are going around the world to all these various locations to get these goods cubes that we will fulfill contracts with. When you fulfill a contract, you get a better contract. You're trying to work your way further and further up the contract, or you can sell them for money to get buildings which will give you bonuses when you go to particular locations, or endgame scoring things that will give you points for fulfilling certain conditions. Absolutely fantastic game, and yeah, the solo works beautifully as well. So you can check that out. That was a live one, but you can see it in the replay form. Next up, Cloudspire. I'll group them together here. There's 2 Cloudspire playthroughs last month. I am going through basically the solo campaign. So this was Brawnen Chapter 2, and I did Chapter 3 later on in the month. It's basically introducing more and more complex things. Both of those scenarios against the Grove Tenders, but in different formats, really. You're catching them unawares and trying to get research in one of them, and then the other one is more of an all-out, you need to take their fortress out with specific turrets and things. If you haven't seen any of them, Cloudspire is a kind of one-off kind of game that's kind of a combination of tower defense and a bit of MOBA video games and stuff, and all sorts of, and as usual with chip theory games, it's done with beautiful heavy poker chips. But yeah, you can check all of that out in the playthrough to see how well I got on. Next up is Venice, a game from Braincrack Games, part of the trilogy, started with Ragusa and is on just finished Kickstarter now, I think, or is just about to finish with Florence. I've only played Venice, and you can see Escape to exit full screen in that screenshot. Oh dear. But yes, this is a game where we are moving our boat around Venice, trying to get to various locations, and every time we get to locations, our assistants will move up in them so that when we take the actions of that building, we'll get more and more opportunities to do things. And I played the solo game where we are against the Doge, who gets in the way very, very well and makes life very, very difficult for you. It's designed with David Tussie, who you'll hear more from, and Andrei Novak, who designed things like Versailles. If you haven't seen David's stuff, Anachrony, Kitchen Rush, amazing games. Loads and loads of them by now. Next up, we had Taverns of Tiefenthal, which is another one along with Maracaibo that was pointed out to me when I did my 2019 video. You're missing out on some great games. Taverns of Tiefenthal had been on the list, but for some reason, I never got hold of a copy. Got hold of a copy thanks to all of your recommendations, so thank you if you pointed it out. This is a game where we are running a tavern. It's a deck building game, really. Our deck is full of customers and later on staff cards. And at the start of a round, you'll draw as many cards as it takes to fill up all of the seats in your bar. So getting more seats in your bar will get you to draw more things, but staff cards don't count towards that limit. They will help you get more money or more beer or extra places to put your dice, let you modify your dice, roll more dice, loads and loads of different things. And it's got modules in it. So the basic game is fairly simple, but it comes with 5 different modules that you can add on top of each other, increasing the complexity each time. I'll say that on advice, we only played it with all of the modules turned on, but absolutely love this. Definitely think it's worth a watch. Well, all of them are worth a watch, right? But if you haven't played Taverns yet, I think it's definitely worth checking out. It's fantastic, and there's an expansion on the way at some point. It's just come out in Germany, but apparently it's hard to get things from Germany to here at the moment. So I think an English version is coming later in the year, so we'll just have to be patient on that. But yeah, check out Taverns. More Uwe, more requests. One of the things of all of the live playthroughs has unwittingly turned into a series of Uwe Rosenberg and Vital Lacerda games, and that's no bad thing because I love those designers' games. At the Gates of Loyang, I did a playthrough, as with Merkator, ages ago for the 2-player version, the solo version of Loyang. So it's a game all about getting vegetables and things and planting them in fields. It costs you 1 vegetable to plant it in a field, but then you fill up the field from the supply, and then every round you get 1 from that field. So you can start to plan out what vegetables you're going to get. You can see in those cards there's customers that either want a one-off delivery of things, or regular customers that will want serving every round and will get annoyed and penalise you if you don't. There are markets where you can exchange things, and helpers that will give you special powers. And in the solo game, you can see in the thumbnail there, it comes in a great big grid of cards. So there's a nice way that I'll leave you to look in the normal playthrough of how it's done in a multiplayer game. But there's a really nice way of getting hold of the cards in this. That there's this table, this grid of cards, and the top row is free. Second row costs 1 coin. Third and fourth rows cost 2 coins each. So it's another use of your coins, because as well as buying vegetables and cards and all that, money is your points, essentially. You have to pay money to progress up your points track. And at the end of each round, the second line of cards gets wiped. So, cards you're completely ignoring are taking up spaces in your free spots, and cards you're hoping to come down and be available for you next time might not be, because of how it clears itself. Absolutely fantastic game. Definitely recommend that as well. Next is Lisboa. Here we go, Visa Lacerda time again. It's been a bit of a break. So with Lisboa, I probably hadn't played it. As with a lot of these games, I've got tons and tons of games that are coming up. You'll see in the coming up portion that a lot arrive and want attention rightly. And all of these games that I absolutely love and have made videos in the past saying how much I love them might not have been played for a long, long time. I probably hadn't played Lisboa for about 3-4 years, something like that. Until I did this live playthrough again, and I'm so glad that I did, because I knew I really enjoyed Lisboa back when I played it, and I could go and watch my video, I'm sure, to remember the specifics of why. But getting back into it and relearning it again, it's that thing with Visa Lacerda games. It seems the memory is that it's this really complicated, heavy thing, and I've got to get to grips with this in time to do a live thing of it. And then actually, as soon as you're in a practice game of it and you've played a few rounds, just do some actions and go through the process of doing them, it all just clicks into place. And Lisboa is one of the best, and it's pretty high standards up in Visa Lacerda's best games. I think solo still my favourite is the Gallerist. Kanban probably my favourite multiplayer, but Lisboa is definitely snapping at their heels as well. We're trying to rebuild Lisboa after a series of disasters that really happened. And you can see over there, that's the plaza where we're trying to build shops in various streets to get goods, to get points. You'll hear more about that in the coming up video, maybe the shop portion of Lisboa. And it's all done through on the surface, simple system. You just play a card and do a thing. But as with Visa Lacerda games, everything is kind of interwoven into everything else, and there are tons of ways to get what you want done rather than the standard just take this action. There are usually a load of different ways to get what you want, and it works absolutely beautifully, I think. Next up, we had Switch and Signal. So, a recorded playthrough. This is a cooperative game that came out, or this version came out last Essen, the Essen Digital. It's a cooperative game where we're trying to get trains over to these various stations to pick up cubes and drop them off in a port city. And we do this by moving the trains. There will be an instruction card at the beginning of every turn that will either add more trains onto the board or move all trains of particular colours. Trains move with dice, but you know that one train is slow, one train is medium, one train is fast due to their ranges of numbers on their dice. And so from all this, to predict what's going to move so they don't crash, if they crash into each other or they are going to run into a dead end, then you lose time tokens. As you start to lose too many time tokens, you lose instruction cards. When you run out of instruction cards, you have lost. So you need to try and calculate where these things might go, keep the avenues open for them, get them to where you need them to be. Because you've got cards that let you move trains more, but it's just one train at a time rather than all the trains of a certain colour. You've got cards that affect the switches. See the black discs there? They control, there's only one path in and out of all of the junctions. And so your switches will determine which way in and out that is. So you want to make sure that the trains have got somewhere to go and that it's somewhere you want them to go, not back to the beginning bit. And there are also signals, the green discs there, which are basically traffic lights. They're rail signals that you want to be green if your train is going down there. It's such a simple system to learn, but we found so engaging, so beautiful. There's randomness to it in the dice and stuff and where the trains can come out. There are variants to solve all of that, but yeah, just had an absolute blast playing Switch and Signal and would absolutely recommend it to all you co-op fans out there. Next up, we had Hadrian's Wall. Now we talk about roll and write. Absolutely love roll and write games. Gone on about them loads. Loved Rome and Roll, which is up there as well. Look at that, you can see it. Which took elements of roll and write. Well, it took rolling and writing and made it, this communal dry whiteboard where we're building buildings and trying to be adjacent to each other and stuff. Turn it into a meaty Euro game. Hadrian's Wall also takes, the filler roll and write that we've perhaps become used to, and turns it into, what if that's, combo-tastic roll and write thing? Well, it's a flip and fill game. End up, just short-handedly calling them all roll and writes, but it's with cards rather than dice. But yeah, what if we took that combo-tastic system and turned it into a full, hour-long game with a million options? This is, what you can see in that thumbnail. Those two big sheets are what every player gets. We get a card at the beginning of the round which tells us all of these meeples that we get. We have a choice of our personal cards. Everyone's got the same deck, but we shuffle them up so they'll come out in a different order. You can get a few more resources from there, and then there's other things to consider. And from them, it's a kind of simultaneous thing. There's some interaction involved, but it's largely multiplayer solitaire stuff. Not saying that's a bad thing. I love things like that. But yeah, you are trying to defend against the Picts that are going to attack every round. You're trying to build a wall, build a fort, recruit all of these different citizens along their tracks, trying to get my finger in the right place, and then build buildings that relate to those citizens that can let you ignore punishments you've incurred, train gladiators and have battles, trade goods on the markets, do a polyomino Tetris-y kind of thing. Loads and loads of different ways to fill all of these things in. And as soon as, the second, third rounds start going, and increasingly so as the game goes on, loads of things that you do end up in you crossing out a box that has a load of other symbols in it that will give you more things, that will give you more meeples, that will let you cross off other boxes, that will give you more things, and you end up having these beautiful combo-tastic turns. There will be a recorded playthrough coming up of it soon. It'll be coming up this week, actually, on Friday, I think. But the live one that I did is up to watch now, and I intentionally did different things in it as well, so you could see how some of the other buildings work. Absolutely fantastic. Can't wait to keep playing it, really. Played it multiplayer at the weekend, and works fantastically well there as well. Hadrian's Wall. Next up, we had The Rival Networks, another favourite of mine. The Networks, one of the first videos I did on the channel, actually, where you're competing to get the best TV station. You are getting new shows, recruiting stars, getting ads, all of that stuff. And The Rival Networks is a two-player only, head-to-head rival implementation of that, where we're just fighting over these 3 time slots. And rather than just taking an action each turn, so, I'm just going to get an ad this turn, and then it keeps moving over to the other players doing their things, you go over in kind of a structured thing where you will get a show every turn. You can just cancel that show if you didn't want the show, but you will take one from the display every turn. The shows and stars are paired up, so there's a bit of push and pull there. The perfect star's there, but this ad isn't worth much money to you. What do you go for? Do you go for some compromise, so they're both kind of good? And then the network cards you can buy and play at any time on your turn, but there's no money anymore. You have to pay for the ads, and you don't get change and stuff, so there's something to think about there. There are awards at the end of each season that want you to win particular time slots or have the most stars of a particular genre. Tons of genre bonuses that are beautifully powerful. And one of my favourite component-wise things anyway, your points for the game are these viewer chips, these chunky cardboard chips, and you can see it just in the corner of the thumbnail there, you have a lovely little cardboard house that is basically your piggy bank for all your viewer chips, and at the end of the game, it's a secret how many points everyone's earned over the course of the game. At the very end, pull up houses, and the chips all flow out and count up and see who wins. It's a lovely, lovely tactile touch. Rival Networks, see a playthrough of that. Next up, Architects of the West Kingdom. So West Kingdom will be coming up a fair bit in my Patreon vote for the month. The West Kingdom Tome Saga, which is an expansion that made them all into a campaign game or made them all into cooperative games, that won the vote. So they are coming up. Architects is filmed. Paladins will be being filmed later this week. But also, when I did vote for live things, what also came quite near the top was West Kingdom solo modes, which I had done before with Viscounts, but if you haven't seen that one, spoilers, I failed miserably in it. So I am going to be hoping to redeem myself. Started out with Architects of the West Kingdom, the solo mode here, and you can see a full playthrough of me doing that there. A Feast for Odin, another absolute favourite, one of my favourite, I think it's like my second favourite Uwe Rosenberg game, one of my favourite games ever. Beautiful, crazy worker placement game. You can see over there that great big board of 1 million actions on there. You are trying to hunt animals, you're trying to go to those islands and fill loads of things up, and your home board with Tetris-y shapes. You're trying to feed your people with Tetris-y shapes. It works absolutely beautifully. I've done a solo playthrough for the original game when it first came out 4 years ago or so. And I did a 2-player playthrough when the Norwegians came out, the expansion for it. Fantastic expansion, by the way. And what won the Patreon vote for solo live playthroughs is A Feast for Odin. Really excited. I put that on hoping it would win because I really wanted to play A Feast for Odin again. So you can see another playthrough where hopefully I went a different way. I can't quite remember the ways I went in the other playthroughs, but yeah, it was great fun and points were scored. And then we're nearly there, still May. Burgle Brothers 2, the Casino Capers. Burgle Brothers was a game all about, you are a team of heisters. I was going to say that and then thought that's not right, and then still said it again when I tried to correct myself. You are trying to avoid security. It was on 3 floors on the original Burgle Brothers. Burgle Brothers 2 comes with a great big box that folds out and turns into a kind of table for the 2 floors of the casino you're trying to get into. Still security to avoid. There are all these chips on the floors that, sometimes you can peek into them, and if you peek into them, you avoid them. Some of the people, you set them off when you peek into the rooms as well, so you can never quite know what is there. Loads of rooms that let you draw event cards and stuff. A much more kind of crazy, wacky, more random version of the game. And then I think, finally, Sushi Roll, which is another one that I meant to play Sushi Roll ages ago, never got around to it. Finally, that is fixed because we really enjoyed Sushi Go way back when. Love dice drafting, so yeah, it's a lovely combination. A light set collection game, but it's got a really neat system in that dice drafting, in that you've got tokens that let you swap the dice, so you've got a little bit more control there. You've got tokens that let you reroll, of course, so you're not just stuck with what you roll on there. There are majorities for every round for certain things. There are majorities for the whole game for puddings. There are ways for you to get more things. You can get wasabi that will triple the value of some of your dice that are coming up. Loads of, as with Sushi Go, loads of different scoring methods in the various things that you can collect. And I think does that bring us back? Oh yeah, overviews. That was the end of the playthroughs. Overviews for Kickstarters that are maybe still running. I think some of them have just finished. You see, Buru. It is all about a game, which I hope I'm saying right. My mouth doesn't move properly when I try and say it for some reason. It is a game all about we've got an interesting worker placement thing that ends up in a little bit of bidding. We're trying to please the various gods of this island that will want different resources or different people to be recruited. And I'll talk about the expansion that comes with it in there as well. Then Vengeance Roll and Fight, which is by original designer of Vengeance, Gordon Kaleha, David Tortsey and Norley Lovers. This takes the roaring rampage of revenge of Vengeance and turns it into a roll and write game. It's got a really cool action selection round where we all have a great big pool of dice depending on the player count, and it is down to you to kind of Project Elite escape Curse of the Temple style. Roll those dice as many times as you can to try and get the results you want. There are certain faces that will lock your dice and cause you damage, so do you want to stick with things that aren't quite ideal so you don't die in the process, so as soon as you've locked those dice into a particular action, you go and take that many dice again from the pool and just keep rolling. And so if you are fast and you are maybe a little bit more loose with your decisions, you can potentially get way more actions because the round only ends when those dice have run out. Yeah, you can see that. I think that might just have finished, might just have missed that. But yeah, you can look out for it if you haven't seen it yet. Vengeance, Roll and Fight. And Pilfering Pandas as well is a card game from Wren Games, Janice and Stu Turner, who have designed previously Assembly and Sensor Ghosts. Fantastic cooperative stroke solo games that I've covered on the channel before too. This is another kind of set collection thing where we are trying to gather sets of cards between us. It can be played competitively or cooperatively. The pandas basically want to escape from the zoo, and we need the meerkats' help. They want food though, so we're going to have to bribe the other animals in there to try and get us some food. You want to play runs of cards of a particular suit or all the same number of different suits. In the cooperative version, you are trying to play things that aren't going to attract too much attention from the zookeeper. He's got a disc that moves behind you. Every time you do certain things, pick up more than one card, for example, he is going to move a load of steps, and you want to try and finish the game ahead of him. You can see the overview. I won't describe all of it for you. And I think that might be... There we go. There is recap. Let's go to coming up. So this is part of the vote on Patreon. It's patreon.com/slickerdrips if you would like to get involved in it. And it's basically, these are a load of things that have arrived. What would you like to see the most? What would you like me to make a priority for this month? So Vienna Connection is, as you can see on the cover there, it's from Portal Games, who made Detective Modern Crime Story and Detective Season 1 later, which I covered both of those, I think. This takes that system, and we haven't played it yet. It's in fact right here. It takes it into the 70s, into a Cold War espionage kind of setting. It has, just from flicking through, a lot more physical components than maybe Detective had, which kind of makes sense because it's set in the 70s. You wouldn't have the kind of is it the Arturus system that let you look up all of these things. So yeah, I imagine there is still a system that will have to check you've got the questions right and stuff, but I think there's going to be more involved in the physical stuff in there. So looking forward to that. A different, takes that original gameplay thing and seems to have a story written by completely different people from Ignacy and Jacob, who originally did the first detective game. Really looking forward to digging into it. Would you like to know how it goes? Vote for it then. Next up, Empires of the North, also new from Portal Games. I love Empires of the North. You can see my playthrough from, I think, about a year ago, where I go on and on about that. And they've come out since with little expansion packs that add 2 new factions each time. This is an Egyptian-themed one that adds 2 new factions to it. Would you like to see another playthrough? And it comes with solo scenarios as well, which I think I did a solo playthrough of original one, so maybe I'd do a solo playthrough to show you how that works, because Portal are always putting out new solo scenarios to it's not just a static set of rules to play with all of these new things, which is very cool. Next we have Mandala Stones from Board and Dice, and from Philippe, who you may well have seen at conventions strutting around in Pac-Man suits and the like. Very jealous of those suits. This is an abstract game, so he is the designer. This is an abstract game where we have towers of stones and we are trying to get the most points from those stones. It's a very colourful, beautiful game, and yeah, looking forward to digging in. Do you want to see? Want to try? Super Skill Pinball 4K is a game that I've been waiting for ages and ages and ages. I made the print and play. I laminated some sheets so that we could have a go of the first board, the Carnival board, I believe. Yeah, it's taken ages for it to reach this country. Finally, last week, got hold of a copy. It's got 4 different tables on it now. Would you like to see stuff about Super Skill Pinball? I nearly just put it straight into the live playthroughs this week, but thought, hang on, we need to get these West Kingdom games done. So that is, coming up for the rest of the week. Join us for a Q&A tomorrow at 5 p.m. BST. Join me for Paladins of the West Kingdom Thursday at 8 p.m. BST. Next up is Mercado de Lisboa. So a lighter game from Vita Lacerda and co-designed by Julian Pombo, who the duo co-designed the solo mode of Lisboa. So this, as I mentioned earlier, kind of takes that shop corner of Lisboa Not exactly the same as it was before, but you put down shops there with your marks on, and then you put down these public buildings that scored certain things in those rows and columns. It takes that kind of idea and makes it just a lighter game, set in more modern Lisboa, of course, where we have different market stalls in different places, different restaurants as well that will boost your scores. Customers that want restaurants of particular types and will score them in there. So it's all about getting your things down and getting them to score, but then other people kind of trying to muscle in on those streets and earn some points as well for free when they place their stuff. Would you like to see some more Vita Lacerda? Would you like to see what a lighter Lacerda looks like? Next up, Imperium Legends and Classics. 2 separate boxes, but it's the same essential game, just loads of different factions in each of those boxes. I covered Imperium a few years ago when it was going to go on Kickstarter, and then things changed. NSKN merged with Board and Dice and stuff. Short story is, that one didn't happen, and I'll probably unlist that playthrough now that this new version is out, because it might be confusing. But yes, it has been tweaked. It has been developed further. It's still got its lovely art by the Miko. You basically have these complex factions that play in very, very different ways, and it's kind of it's a kind of conquest of your civilization game, but it's not, from my memory of the original game, it's not about just going out there. You're not on a map or anything like that. You're not trying to just crush the other factions. There's a much more intelligent game going on there from David Tortzi again and Nigel Buckle. Oh, and they're working together on Voidfall, right? From Mind Clash. Looks cool. Destinies is new from Lucky Duck Games, which takes the kind of card scanning from Chronicles of Crime. This isn't, well, there is kind of a story going on to deduce, but it's not a cooperative deduction game. This is a competitive game for 1 to 3 players where you pick from one of several stories, and I think there are about 5 stories on the app. It is app-based. You need an app for it. You will take on a particular character who has a couple of destinies on the back, things to do to win the game, but you're not told how to do those things. You're put on the map of cards, and on your turn you can move a little bit, and then you can interact with one of the things on the card that you're on. And through that, you will have interactions with people. You will talk to them. You will try and find out how to fulfill your destiny. You will try to gather items that will make you better at making skill checks. You can use items in certain things as well. So there's a locked door here. You can try a difficult check to try and burst down that door, although you never quite know the difficulty of the checks. Or say you picked up a lockpick at some point. You can scan that into the app, and maybe that will unlock the door for you. That kind of thing. So would you like to see some destinies? Circadians First Light is another one basically off my Garfield Games kick. I've been playing loads of West Kingdom. Hadrian's Wall was fantastic. Some more Sam Phillips art maybe. Circadians First Light, I thought as well, I've just gone in kind of, yes, let's go for it. Not knowing very much about it. I know that it is designed just by S.J. McDonald, who is the co-designer of all of the West Kingdom games. And this is going to turn into a series as well, isn't it, as we go along? Really looking forward to that. And I've had it recommended to me as well since I've been going on about West Kingdom and stuff. So am I right to have picked it up? Should I get going with it? By the way, if you're wondering, I've mentioned West Kingdom. Sleeping Gods is going to be coming up as well. That won the vote for last month, but we had to wait until we'd done our campaign of it before I could film any of it, because you can't really pause it and take it apart like that. You have to finish your campaign, which we have now. And so, yes, there will be some Sleeping Gods stuff coming up this month. And then finally, some micro games. I have been looking at Button Shy games for ages and never got hold of a copy, and missed out, I think, at the last UK Games Expo that was on grabbing some of the wallet games. Finally picked up, I think it's Quinid Games, have made kind of small box versions of them. They're not in little wallets, but it's the exact same essential game inside. So these are micro games, with not very many cards to them. I think it's 18 cards in Sprawlopolis anyway, where you are trying to cooperatively or on your own build up a city based on criteria. So 3 of the cards are removed at the start, and they're going to be your scoring criteria. They will give you points for doing certain things, maybe punish you if you've done some things, but will give you a target score for each of them. Add those up, that's the score you need to try and get this game. There are a few other scorings, so getting light coloured areas next to each other. You lose a point for every road, so you want to try and link up your roads so there's not loads going off everywhere. yeah, just played it a few times just this weekend, in fact, and well, blown away for such a kind of simple system and such few components. So much thought, so much. I was going to say fantasticness, and then couldn't think of something better. So much awesome packed into such a tiny game. And then also, we haven't played this yet, but along with that, I ordered Tussie Mussie. It's an I Split You Choose kind of game about flowers, about Victorian flowers. And it's from designer Elizabeth Hargrave, which is another reason that I picked it, who designed the absolutely fantastic Wingspan and Mariposas as well, which you can check out playthroughs on the channel for those too. Oh, I'm not quite finished. Sorry, Black Sonata. Black Sonata, maybe not brand new. Well, my copy is. But this is a solo-only deduction game. I know theme-wise it's got something to do with Shakespeare, looking for a lady or something. But yes, a deduction game that will work completely solo. I have only played, I think, The Search for Planet X, which, fantastic in its own right. You should check out my video for that from a while ago. That did it with an app. I think Black Sonata just does it with cards and stuff. Very interested to see how that works out. Would you like to see me do that? And awkward guests, I'm told. I just kind of thought that was some big social deduction game, but apparently you can play that solo as well. So that is on my list. I think that is what is going to be on the vote. That's what might be coming up in June. Hopefully, if no more games, yes, we're on Vienna Connection again. Yes, that means that I've done them all. So there we go. That is what is coming up. That is what happened. Loads and loads of stuff to talk about. I hope to see you there for it. I hope there is some stuff there that you are looking forward to. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back tomorrow night at 5 p.m. BST for a Q&A that we haven't done a fully Q&A thing for ages now, but Rach is returning for that. Really looking forward to that. Hope you can join us there. And yeah, more playthroughs and things later on in the week. Thank you very much for watching this, and I will see you for the next game. Bye, everyone.